So what does it take for you to be a leader? Well, you might say, well, I'm not a leader. I'm not in charge of anything. Well, Jesus taught that leadership is not about being in charge, but about being a servant. Jesus said, leaders serve others. Good morning and welcome to 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about easy to remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest, the Jesus way. Today's Jesus Said comes from Matthew 20, verses 26 through 28, and we'll be reading from the New Living Translation, where Jesus said, "But among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must become your slave. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Now, the context of what we just read, there was this disciple mom. So what's a disciple mom? Well, you've probably known a stage mom or dad who thinks their kid is a rock star. Well, James and John were the sons of Zebedee, and they had this mom who wanted them to be the greatest. So I'm calling her a disciple mom. And before this statement that Jesus made in verse 20, she asked Jesus for her sons to have seats of honor in the kingdom. Now, when the other disciples heard all this, they were indignant. And today's soundbite is about how Jesus responded when the disciples were upset about who among them would be the most important. Now, Jesus made this same point in many different ways, and the disciples were evidently pretty hard-headed, just like us. In fact, after they had been with him for at least 3 years, in Luke 22, after the Lord's Supper, they had another argument. In verse 23 of Luke 22, the disciples began to ask each other which of them would ever do such a thing. What they were asking is, who would betray Jesus? Well, that question led to this, verse 24. Then they began to argue among themselves about who would be the greatest. Just get this. First, who would betray Jesus? None of us. Oh, yeah, and who's the greatest? Just a really good example of human nature. And here's how Jesus responded. Verse 25. Jesus told them, "In this world, the kings and great men lord it over their people, yet they are called friends of the people. But among you it will be different. Those who are greatest among you should take the lowest rank, and the leader should be like a servant." Now, Jesus not only said this, he modeled this that very night as he washed the disciples' feet and he served them communion. And the point that he was making here was, don't be like earthly leaders. There should be a difference. Well, what is that difference? Well, it's not all about you. Bottom line, following Jesus is not about you. Jesus came to serve, not to be served. And following Jesus means we want to help others, not be in charge. You see, leaders in the kingdom serve others. And if you show up or do what you do for yourself, guess what? That selfishness will eventually lead to frustration, discouragement, and disappointment. And you will choose comfort and convenience over obedience. But when it's about those you serve because they represent Jesus to you, your commitment to others becomes much more important to keep. You say, well, I'm not a leader. Well, we're all different parts of the body, yet we are all called to be disciple makers, to lead others to Jesus, to let our light shine. And so the question is, are you living for yourself or to help someone else? What more can you do to serve others like Jesus did? Because Jesus said, leaders serve others. How can you put that into action today? Thank you so much for listening. If this is meaningful to you, it does mean a lot when you like it, when you share it, when you comment. I really appreciate you. I hope that you have an amazing day. And I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest the Jesus way. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.